Hey, what's up? Small storage. Hi, Jen. How are you?
Yeah, great.
Good.
Beautiful night.
It is.
Open up the ceiling.
That would be nice.
A lot of buttons in here. One has to open that ceiling.
How goes it?
What's up?
I'm gonna make sure these units are running back here since the power was out.
How are you?
Why is it any better? To me to enjoy it.
Hey, Jack. Hope you all.
Well, the power back on now. It ran for, it'll run for about a half hour. It's a cool down. It has to do that to cool down. Does the panic over with? Because I know when the power goes out, people panic around here.
Yeah, we were worried about board meetings. But
Because when I first come in, they were all the way down to that first house looking up to see what was going on. Brian and Dr. Walsh. Or no, I'm sorry, it was Dr. Ashley. But yeah, it's like, the last time I know, everybody was running around here like, you know, it wasn't the end of the world, folks, just chill.
Yeah.
which building are you in again? Are you at O Block? Are you at O Block? Sorry, you don't have to get up. I keep bothering you.
I'm sorry.
Which school are you in?
HP.
I thought you were at O Block.
It's the only school I have.
Okay. shift the guys around every couple of years. I don't know if
Well,
they're still talking about
that's
doing
a
that.
subject of great interest from us, that's right now. Because this will be the last year for the rotation. So presumably we'll all move up one except for Joe, who's down to Oakwood. Joe doesn't particularly want to go, and I don't think Tim particularly wants to leave. So there's talk about extending it. So we'll see what happens.
Nice idea to have you guys follow your kids.
I do,
That's the benefit I see in it,
there's,
besides being familiar with all the buildings in the district.
I see two sides. One, yes, I do like the idea of following kids. You know, if we don't rotate this year, then the kids that I started with in 5th and 6th grade last year, I won't reach those 6th graders again until their seniors. And the 5th graders, I will get them their junior year. So there's gonna be a pretty big gap there. But the other side of that is, I'm also learning how to work pretty well with 5th and 6th graders. And the staff is learning what I can help them do. So, you know, I see both sides.
Knowing that age range.
Which is, you know, I mean, I have children, so it's my fortunate. I haven't been with 10, 11 year olds. A couple of days now. I wouldn't want to be in Joe's position to go from high school, where you can, you know, the kids you're dealing with, you can have pretty mature conversations. You know, the kid work for great. You know, they want to touch you, they want to give you hugs, and give them an high five. They're very much a group thing mentality. There's little professionally to do there other than being screwed. I've got a good phone. That one gets hit all the time.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Or good evening. Where is the dividing line between that?
I say 5. I think 5 is early evening, and 4 is late afternoon.
I would put it this.
So I think that.
Where's the sun at?
Yeah,
Sun's still up. Still not good.
so in the summer, it's not evening until 9:30, 10 o'clock for you.
That's the end of it.
Twilight.
Do you know if any teachers anywhere are doing anything related to the eclipse? Like on the day of, any events or lessons?
I'm not sure what has been decided about it this day.
I understand the middle schools can take out the mark on binoculars.
Whatever he says, no,
Yeah.
they're all going to the holiday park every week. So,
The eclipse of binoculars.
there they run.
Yeah. She's looking for something that makes
They have it. Two. I was thinking, dude, they have a meeting.
No, well, I went there.
Yeah, I go with it. Who was 60th Mark Lot? Management, Mary and Mary.
No, in March.
And
I don't know.
She got strict.
But Jim came back and was like, you're all upset. I said, I don't really care. What do you got? What is that?
Jimmy wanted a ladder for the girls, so I got him one, but I think it's like for elementary team.
Pleasure to see you.
This is Dr. Carmen.
Absolutely.
Thanks for answering my questions, Maria.
I didn't
It comes and goes in phases, like
I'm
sometimes
telling
it's quiet and then you like boom, 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 you can't hit with it.
And this was like, I was like, stuff, and I'm like,
You need to order good bags.
yeah, I just. And I didn't know anybody else who was
Well, that, yeah, that was but those.
Orange Road is barely.
The other one.
Because they go through things, you're like this, what is that?
What are you falling off?
What? Are you speaking a foreign language?
That's right. And he can like talk. I'm trying to help you, but you're not.
I came up with this, I could not see.
All right, let's see if this is what Jimmy wanted. Louder. All right. Skinny, he'll do the job. I'm gonna tell him he has to make it work.
And for some reason, when I mapped the road, it didn't tell me to take a short hill. It comes off the hill, short hill, it comes off, and then you get on this road, they look at it farms. So, I come off the farms.
Did you meet Officer DeMarco?
I think we scared him away.
Some of your rooms.
Well, his first day, right, yesterday at our building at 9 a.m. we had a
Come down
class.
the
Jackson right up to make it by 10.
So,
He had a carry in the classroom, kicking and screaming. Oh, he got to
it'd
see
be nice to
him
clear.
run
Clear.
out of the building and then, let's see.
He is scratching and trying.
That's his new thing right now. Yep.
I saw your
Oh, nice, sorry.
That's all.
You ever see those little videos of?
Oh, I get the truck with your little ladder, a little
Oh,
ladder.
that's it.
But that,
Where was that? That.
yeah, not even, but like the ones that'll be like, like the CJs or the G full ladder, like they just to get up on the roof rack, and it's hilarious. So I always see videos where they got like little ladders with just big magnets, trucks and.
Just to make sure I knew the right strip lock.
Huh? I probably smell like dirt.
She's a mess.
Look at your keys, do you know your keys?
Hey, Michael, that's perfect.
No, I had put this set drop on, so it was like this high. So it was
See, how I didn't even notice.
Adam, did you lose your power with that call?
Yeah.
No.
I lost my power for 3 minutes.
Yeah, I literally
Sorry, yeah.
told the girls to clean
I'm
up.
sorry, I'm having a blank. What was FRCP?
Like sweet.
Future ready,
So they're done.
What is it, F?
Put the sweet on later.
future ready comprehensive plan.
Future ready
What's that?
comprehensive plan.
Oh, yeah?
It's the states. Basically, the states.
Dapper down.
Titles for any of our. So these are the comprehensive plans
Unless I'm
for
told the
the
word
district
Jack.
last year, so this is for special education.
That's
And
good.
then there's a plan, they served it for 3
And
years.
then each building has to do a plan as well. Those are your.
Oh, that makes more sense than.
Never.
Federal goals.
That would work. It's not
Future ready.
comprehensive. And I have to know the initials because I can't put it together right away.
All the results.
I cannot.
Yeah, if you put in like the future. That would come up with this name and
I like the.
Oh, fantastic, how are you? You don't even know? You're in the middle of it?
I enjoy grilling.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I look up and.
You could use it for.
And what happened?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Literally.
I got a little bit of
Anything possibly.
He wants to feel free.
Grill.
I don't even get shit. Service that we have.
My
But he
kids,
goes outside.
dude, I'll put steaks on there. My
So
kids
they're really
wash
now that.
the steaks.
They
They are.
Apparently, days.
Yeah, you gotta like, it's like, so I have this extra large one, which is a pretty.
Who doesn't
But I
get
can
naked yet?
dude, I can feel like steaks, double pieces of
Nobody
chicken,
can.
just on the bottom rack.
He's
I
into
can make a whole meal, I can make a meal for the house.
Yes, because he wants to do movie reviews.
And then,
So,
I was thinking maybe like,
what else? They like lobster.
What about kids?
Pizzas, we made
Then he
pizzas
goes
for
and
them.
go into that, no.
which is really weird, that you can do it, you got, I think you're on one hand, which is
Huh?
now.
No, we bought Labradoodles. I would like to, we have a pasta, I have a pasta. Should she show them, what is it called?
I believe for some people it is problem.
Toby pasta.
I don't know either.
My dad was.
I assume there has to be problem or something, otherwise it wouldn't exist. Maybe that's the cynic in me.
Hey, when you're done.
Your page? Unfortunately, that's what he wants to make, what he's doing tracks. That's what he wants to make, what he's doing tracks.
Yeah, well, and he even has a prostitution position right now. So that's fine. I'm not sure if he even told them nothing. Oh, he hasn't.
Well, this one, this is what I love about this.
So mom.
It's like a,
I think you found that on
it's like a hook in here.
That's a positive thing, yeah.
There was a,
I saw it. How you doing?
Yeah, well, that's his new thing.
I think there's.
He's out there.
God helps in your house. Oh, yeah.
We knew that was coming.
Get us what's in the ground.
Yeah, we knew that was coming. That was for my evidence apparently, so.
Right.
We'll get the inspection.
So I finally,
I'd rather just
then I had,
prevent it.
finally talked to him.
Did you do it yourself?
I had friends. I wasn't,
So you weren't carrying them. I would carry them.
I get to look for a new route.
Bring them back.
Well, mom's been in. It was
I was actually thinking about the outside.
So I did. Then she picked him up and carried him like.
Can be one thing or the other, I'm okay with
Like when we
that.
call her, I'm just like, listen, like she's needed, but he wants to go home. So I'm not letting him do that. Oh, of course.
I bring them to my office, I conference room.
Since I have you on captain. And he just dropped off a business card, one of his colleagues is doing a story about eclipse activity.
The eclipse is coming.
Is that?
Everyone Mitsubishi.
When everyone's going to Erie? We're doing eclipse.
I don't know. Well, that was the question, is if any of our teachers or buildings are doing.
I mean, I imagine.
We're dismissing.
It's not the same.
When's that?
We're gonna wear those glasses.
Plus, we're right in the middle of the
Yep.
day.
Yep.
I thought this was like.
You have kids that are-
You know who? I thought this was.
The official program.
I thought this was. What program is this?
Program, you don't know about this program?
Hey, yeah, we don't have that after school clock.
If you happen to have any teachers, even if it's not the day out, we're just.
What, that they're doing anything?
There's not many, but actually,
I will like
that.
I was.
I don't know. People have been trying to hard. These people have been like staying away from it because it's like, everyone's like, no, I don't know.
Yeah. We're gonna have 90% exposure.
We're gonna go a dollar.
It goes directly over here. So we're in the 90 percentile.
They're amazing
Being
experience.
the
So, for our area.
It's very cool.
solar.
Can you imagine what we're gonna be like? With all that on a full moon? Can you imagine what we're gonna be like on a solar eclipse?
Someone look up.
I'm easy to get off the sensory room today.
She couldn't get out. So what did she do? Just stay there?
She calls me.
You get locked in sensory.
Did you watch it?
There it is.
That's more
He's
because
locked
Peter's
in the sensory room. Yeah.
You should have had a small
Yeah, I just wonderful, underwear, feeling the roof, it's nice.
It's nice.
Yeah, on my drive home, the car said it was 68 degrees. I had the windows down.
Man, how are you? I didn't think you had it. I didn't read the TV screen. I'm sorry. I'll do that. Huh? I think as a little kid, I was like, I was just.
I don't want to be below 40 over.
I was ready.
No, because then I'm
I like Thomas Alva.
it's like, it's not.
I need to put something together here. Okay, so you can play with your
Yeah.
I can help you with that.
Like, I don't wear it to so like, when I'm here, it's like cold, and I leave, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm comfortable, and then I just like, a sweatshirt, or like a t-shirt, but I don't have that full time and heat outside. And then like, walk somewhere else, it's cold.
Yeah.
More recently, it usually depends on the topic. Changes it. I think it kind of too crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hit or miss. But
She was, I mean, she went fast for me. Yes, I was in Mount Lebanon. Yeah, I was there for like about 5 years, like 4 years and 10 months. And before that, I was in Copper Carroll and city schools right outside of Akron. So we're very this is like our third year in a row now. So those were the best board meetings. They lasted like 20 minutes. It was so nice. And Conference table is like the red is a solid.
whatever things pertain to.
How are you? Good. So you just sit there.
I thought you were trying to say hi to me.
So we can give you a record on Mark. You know, we just meet it.
This started as 20-pound block.
And I sit up
My
there.
dad manufactured the first
And after a few minutes, he rips them out.
They went down to 20.
And then I see him skirting around the outside. And I let him get fully dressed, and I let him sit there for like 5 minutes. And then I say to him, everybody now.
Is that the camera?
Yeah. I see my dad says, I was telling you about it. Can we have some food?
Where is this?
I see anything next week. Which is me.
Okay, everywhere.
So now that this means, he can come back because you're still there. You got to meet the enticing market. He scheduled, he continues his trades and works. He's going to be international.
Is this your stuff?
Those great
Another show.
Not as good as yesterday's show. Or as long.
That's really
So we'll make a process.
But I said,
How year did you say this was?
Dad said this was.
And hopefully it's on
69.
extinction first, because you know.
He did not have one.
And a company here that's working
He
in
did not, he didn't have one yesterday.
Yeah.
had exams and couldn't do it.
Wonder what that weighs.
An extinction burst.
The camera's on
That-
20 hours.
That's where, when you
We're
deny
sending him back
activity
here.
enforcement that previously worked,
At least
they
we
ramp
want
it up even more
That's
for
all.
a short period of
Because
time.
now
But it
they
came
push
up
him
for
out.
20
See,
days.
I see old photos. Which is what happened
My
yesterday. And I
dad
was-
did the winter camp
I
person
said,
in
"Oh,
camera.
I didn't.
This is a picture of it.
This time.
So yesterday might have been the extinction.
I think so, actually, now that I think about that.
It started with a 20-pound box balloon.
Yeah, because you've extinguished
It
three
had no
fourths.
seams in it.
What
Today
about
it was like,
film?
He had these, he had some of the original pictures.
Oh, he did.
I mean, what you think is that?
Oh, wow.
You can't read this, you can't marvel.
Why? So this is what I did. I said, you know, for your friends.
This
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
that's so
Do you want to
neat.
class down here? I didn't want your friends down here.
20 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever, and then
He's like,
Contravi skirts. They were based out of Switzerland, and they had an office up in the RDC.
And during the time of that, they built by hand.
oh, the bus.
He's my mom. He'll tell you.
I said, oh, I can't, she can't.
It's not
Make
the
it, you
teaching
know?
today. He said today they're basically grinders. He
Yeah.
goes, or they're, he calls them computer monkeys.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not right. He goes, they put it in, they punch everything in, and they hit the button and it just goes.
My uncle, he was in the shit. Basically, my daughter was asking, he's like, what do you do? He's like, nowadays, all you gotta do is make sure all the machine's working.
Right.
And he goes, we don't
I don't know how you're gonna get
I don't know what's gonna happen to it.
My dad went to Plum trade, so you know how long ago that was.
He went to Pittsburgh High School.
That would not
Time
Yeah, that's what I, that's.
He's been in the machine.
Yeah, but
My dad was-
Did you
My
really?
dad will be 89 next year.
I wish that lasted 5
He still
years.
does some
Something like that.
government. He said the hardest part right now is still,
And it was just.
no, he does government. Bigger.
My uncle said the stuff they make.
It's okay, that's travel.
Yeah, Dad, when Dad was working, they did the self-armor test equipment. His company made the first MRI machine. And the funniest thing was.
Very much so.
I'm gonna reach out to the
They
main
made
Stewart or
Stewart.
PhD or.
There were six,
Yeah.
there were 6 divisions.
Because you got union brothers.
But I just don't want you.
Sarah, where was the plane? Sarah Letts.
RDC
It's gonna be all hands on deck scrambles, etc.
It'll be like our buddy.
Yeah.
And there's two
Hopefully a little bit-
companies in it now.
at least a bit
Like
more of
they
a
had the elevators,
heads up and prep, I
they were
guess.
like Chris.
Yeah.
And when
Okay,
he
thank you.
assembled, he spent like 37 hours in a white room.
There's.
So, but he hasn't had a beat mark this year.
So my thing is.
I don't see why anybody would ever.
He got started.
Parents are going
You
to
know how he just loved that.
strings only.
Do
You don't like
I think that is.
So he got searched twice because of his one ex-friend, just that you and I had a discussion about it before.
They're being like.
Said it might have a weapon on him.
In school.
Oh, coming.
I didn't.
I can't check it out.
No, they just.
And then.
I know there are ways you can, the one day.
Yeah, no, one day, I get a call telling me that.
Yes.
So I went on a fence. Can you check this? I'm seeing that happen. Maybe
Yes, that's what she told me.
But it may have put in his backpack.
That's usually.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's.
So sometimes
I can't deny someone an opportunity.
Yeah, so they.
No, they don't do that.
There was nothing I did.
That's the one that
I didn't think it was
Amy was
because they still, if you know Mark's.
With their
Yeah, it's about right.
So they're.
Rowan Johnson, Anthony Johnson.
She was either registered.
I said, tough kid with big attitude sometimes, because we know that I've been.
Yeah.
Hey, you did go with a cool house. It was pretty cool.
I told you, it's
Yeah.
a big mess this year.
I like to creep around. Check here.
Right. That looks so serious.
One way or the other, he's going to school.
Hi, how are you? Good. It is, I know, it's amazing. And on Sunday, it would go like, I was at a ski lodge, it was our last day of ski season. And I'd be looking outside with flurries, sunny and pretty, white out. Like, and then, I know, right? I went out and then for a walk. sunny, and then flurries, sunny and pretty, then a white out. Like, I went out, and the kids kept coming in like, we can't see. I know.
Yeah, because we looked into that.
I know, right? The wind.
I'm just trying to help.
So my thing is,
Yeah, I walked out my door at one point on Sunday morning to go to work, and I'm like, I walk out and I'm like, holy cow, like I'm on an ice skating rink. I mean, you could just see the glare. So I went back in the house, and everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm like, put more salt down. Like I gotta salt everything because you guys aren't gonna be here when I get back, and like I need to know, you know. Well, I don't know what I'm walking under, so like, but it actually did break it up, which was nice. But yeah, it was craziness, complete crazy.
I'll survive the night.
Because they usually like someone to put it with the trash.
Go see if this is actually a problem. It's me. No, that's what it was. Thank you. Right. You can send me an in. You can send me an
I saw him today, he walked down the hall, he's in the bathroom, I straight up.
And it's hard to say that.
Yeah, he looks out like chuckling and goes right back into it. I thought, yeah.
Smash his head. And you're like, I don't know.
All right, I'd like to call to order the discussion and budget workshop meeting for March 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the high school. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move into the regular meeting tonight, I think we could probably find a tragedy for every single day, maybe a tragedy for every hour that we could recognize. I think for many of us and many in our district that it hit home today for the home explosion that had happened in Crescent Township. Mrs. Stepnick just told me that it was 7 months to the day of the one that had happened in Rustic Ridge. So I'd like it if you would just take a moment with me and we could just honor and that family and that situation with a moment of silence. Thank you. Ms. Macro, roll call.
Mr. Adams?
Here.
Dr. Anderson?
Here.
Ms. Arendt?
Here.
Ms. Chudderwitz?
Here.
Mr. Caligieri? Here. Dr. Richardson?
Here.
Mr. Sokolsky?
Here.
Mrs. Stepnick?
Here.
Mr. Strobke?
Here.
And Student Representative Ms. Scollart?
Here.
Thank you. The board met in executive session on March 12th, 2024 to discuss matters of litigation, safety, personnel, and real estate. Well, we'll now do citizens' comments at this time, Ms. Macro.
If there are any audience members that would like to make a comment at this time, we ask that you step to the podium one at a time, state your name, your residency within Plum, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. This is a time to share your comments and concerns with the board rather than a question and answer session with the board. We ask that you please address your comments directly to our presiding officer. I will give you a 30-minute warning and also put the 3-minute clock on the screen so you can also manage your own time. When you're finished, please write your name on the clipboard at the end of the table so that I am able to spell it correctly in the minutes. Is there anybody that would like to speak at this time? No? All right, back to you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you. Okay, academic achievement and activities, myself, lead board liaison. Letter A, we have 2 grants and donations that were awarded. First for Emily Mission, $809 through donor Tues, and then the second for Ms. Griggle, $250 donation from the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank to support National School Breakfast Week. Any questions or concerns on those? Do we have 5 to move them forward? Thank you. All right, next up, the FRCP Special Education Plan presentation. Dr. Boyers, I have a feeling you have a busy night tonight.
Run me for a while this evening, yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. Just want to take some time to highlight the quality work that was put forth here this evening from both an internal and external committee that I'll introduce here shortly, and go over our special education plan that will be on review for feedback and then hopefully for approval and putting into motion for the next 3 years. So when we talk about, again, anything that we do within the district, talking about how's it aligned to our goals and who we are and how we operate. Obviously, our focus here is on student achievement and growth, but also that important piece of cultivating a first-rate workforce and growing our professionals along the way. You can see our core team here, made up again of internal and external stakeholders. Very thankful for the commitment of parents, administrators, board members, and community members who were able to shed their experiences and feedback for us to develop a plan moving forward that will serve our students, serve our schools and district. The why behind it is every 3 years we have to spend time looking at kind of conducting a SWOT analysis, so looking at our strengths, our weaknesses, and our opportunities, and then what is our timeline to move that forward. And so what you'll see on the forthcoming slides are opportunities that were identified. We did take some time to celebrate our successes, but we also want to put forth those opportunities and talk about what are we going to do to rectify those opportunities to provide better opportunities for our students and staff. The components of the plan are outlined here. What you see and highlighted are things I'm going to be focusing on were opportunities that emerged for the Plum Borough School District. First and foremost, just some numbers so that way you kind of understand the students that we serve. And so within the Plum Borough School District, we have roughly 597 students who receive special education services. You'll hear this month and again next month as we talk about the program review that student services is a broad umbrella that encompasses not only special education, but gifted education and as well as our 504 students. And so you see those numbers highlighted there, as well as at times there are students who need to receive education elsewhere based upon their needs and their respective individualized plans, and so we highlight that as well. One of our first indicators, which we talked a bit about in October during our balanced scorecard, really came in with students participating in the state assessments. And so it's important to note when we talk about our special education plan that we're talking about some old data. So we're talking about 21-22 data because that's the data that's utilized to generate some of our opportunities from the state and to focus on. But we wanted to lay across that some of our newer data to ensure that we are making progress already. And so what you see on this slide are the respective school buildings in the respective subject matter of ELA and math, where we performed overall our students with identified as special education needs. We're sitting for those assessments. And then coming out of that next following year, how we've already had improvements in students participating in those assessments. And so we're already making positive progress. The next slide really outlines a lot of those next steps. And so what are we going to do as an entity to educate? That's our responsibility is to educate. And so again, highlighted on here is just that access the core curriculum, which I'll talk about on some further slides about having students gain access to that curriculum in the general education with their non-disabled peers. Sharing that information within our PSSOs and our PTO organizations that are engaged in our operations and learning about how we conduct business. Having our teachers and principals advocate for the why behind it. Again, we're not trying to persuade, we're just educating on the why and the purpose. And what do we do with that data? Why is it important? What does it do to drive instruction? And what does it do to drive our decision-making processes? Again, educating folks within IEP meetings. And so IEP meetings can become very intimidating for parents at times. You walk into a conference room and there could be 13 or 14 individuals that, they go through their introductions. But again, it's very intimidating. And so again, utilizing that space as a means to educate and provide good quality information so parents can make informed decisions that are best for their students. One of the other pieces we're going to be deploying here in the near future, which is actually linked to the school calendar, which I'll talk about a bit later, is an assessment webpage. Just being transparent about what assessments we give, when we give them, but more importantly, the why. What's the purpose? What do we do with the data? What's the seat time? And so how is my students' experience within the Plum Borough School District as they migrate through our assessment pathways? And then again, providing that continual professional development based upon the data, what does the data say, and beyond the data, how do we use it to make it meaningful, to make good educational decisions. Indicator 3D was how our students perform overall, so the actual proficiency thereof. And again, you can see that we're making good progress. On this slide, I did show kind of the delineation between students with disabilities and students without disabilities. And the purpose of that was to call attention that some of our students with disabilities are actually making some of the best growth. If you look kind of horizontally at that, we see that demographic of student making some good growth. And so I think it was important to call attention to that. But again, as we talked about in October with our balanced scorecard, this is an opportunity for us. And we spend time with our curriculum review. We're continually fine-tuning the curriculum, common assessments, how we're going to utilize that data, and really trying to generate good quality learning activities within our classrooms. And this board has been very gracious with our resource reviews and putting good resources in the hands of our teachers so they can have promote rich educational experiences for our students. Again, kind of those next steps. One of the things we talked about, the acronym of MTSS, that multi-tiered system of support, really identifying those students in the various tiers of Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Kind of think of it as an early intervention. As students start to kind of falter and show opportunities there, we're able to quickly intervene and build those students back up, provide interventions respective to their needs. Identify and implement research-based interventions. I talked about, again, thinking of our student population, roughly 80% in that Tier 1, happening in the general education classroom, 10 to 15% in that Tier 2, and then 10 to 5% in Tier 3, which is a more intense intervention opportunity. Ongoing professional development in ELA and math. Again, with new resource implementation, we recognize there's going to be that up and down curve as we implement that resource. And we heard loud and clear from our department leaders back in August that one of a success maker, they needed some more PD. And so we made that happen. And so again, if we're going to put these tools in the hands of teachers, we need to continually teach them how to utilize them and utilize the data so that way they can make good decisions for students. And then lastly, just conducting that analysis of our data. What is our data telling us, our CDT data? What are the strengths that emerge individually, and what are the strengths that emerge globally relative to the PA standards? And then what are we going to do as those opportunities emerge? And then one of our big focal points moving forward in grades 7 through 12 will be implementing a co-teaching model with Fidelity in our secondary building. The other piece that's important to draw a note on is the least restrictive environment. So every time we conduct an IEP meeting, we need to really ask ourselves, the team needs to ask themselves the question is, what's best for the student? What are the student's needs and how can we best support that student to make adequate progress? And so within that decision, that team's decision, they're talking about what's the best placement for the student to receive appropriate accommodations and experience success. And so you can see here inside the regular education classroom for more than 80% of the day, which we would call itinerant. The next level is inside the regular education classroom for 40% of the day, which would be supplemental. And then we go into other settings that exist because, again, sometimes, as well as we try to educate students, sometimes there's other opportunities that exist to give them a different style of education to best meet their needs. And so you can see that within the Plum Borough School District in years past, we've worked extremely hard to bring that other setting down to ensure that our students that live in our communities are educated in our neighborhood schools. And so before we got flagged for that criteria, we're actually meeting it, and we're going to continue to work on that opportunity to provide good quality learning programs and experiences for our students as deemed appropriate by the IEP teams. One of the other pieces we talk about is just, again, that positive behavior support. And we've talked about our implementation of PBIS at the secondary level, or from 5 through 12, and talking about what are those programs and experiences that students are having within our respective school buildings. And so as we implement PBIS, we talk about other frameworks that assist in that, with Rachel's Challenge and that district-wide implementation of building a positive culture. We talk about, again, PBIS itself and establishing those expectations and what are those expected behaviors within our learning environments, so we can have good discussion and good dialogue and students have access to learning. We talk about some of our partnerships. So through our SAP, we understand that students have a myriad of experiences that go on within their respective life, whether it be grief and loss or some attendance matters. We have a SAP mechanism to quickly identify that and provide supports for our students so they can experience success. We implemented the Columbia Suicide Screener more recently, and then we have our partnerships with Systems 1, 2, 3, FBR, which is Family Behavior Resource Partnership, and then obviously our nonviolent crisis intervention and prevention opportunities through training for our staff. The next piece for us is really going to be the parent survey. So a part of this audit that comes to the state is that our parents are randomly sampled to the survey. We have received feedback from the state that survey is typically low in response rate for our families, and so we want to get ahead of that and educate our families. And so we're going to be deploying a similar survey that was vetted by the team, just to kind of get some experience for that. It also helps establish an internal baseline for us to get that immediate feedback piece, and then that way we also introduce that survey ahead of time so parents know what they're getting when they get that random email from PDE about the why and what's coming forth. And then lastly, we need to take a hard look at our educational programs, both from a building level and from a systematic approach. And so what you can see here on this is a breakdown of our special education classrooms within respective buildings, as well as the related services that our students receive to experience success within our environments. And then lastly is a overview of our special education program, programmatically, top to bottom, K-12, and how we function, and then how we function in comparison to other comparable school districts relative to similar size. So our next steps for our special education plan, again, just a real high-level overview, is it will be on full display for the public to review. That will be posted to our website. We're also going to release a Google survey that's, as parents, guardians, or community members review that, they can provide their respective feedback. It has to be on display for 28 days. We'll look at that feedback and make any adjustments as we deem necessary, as well as maybe reconvening with the core team to share that with them. And then we'll be bringing that forward for board affirmation for submission to PDE for hopeful approval, and putting that forward as we move for our next steps.
Is there any questions? Thank you, Dr. Borders. I would just like to add something that I believe is important to make a connection. Dr. Borders had an opportunity to talk about some of the things we're doing very well, and there's opportunities for improvement. In April, the Pupil Services Department has been working on a program review, just like we have in math and ELA, and they're going to be moving forward next month. Recommendations, and this data is helpful in guiding some of our decisions moving forward. So some of the areas where we have those opportunities, we're going to be asking perhaps for people, time, or money in order to close those gaps. And that presentation will be coming forward in April.
And I think it's just important to remind, I know we've had a couple of months of various updates on this plan, but the goal of the committee, I should say the committee of all of us that were part of those conversations, is to continuously have maybe quarterly meetings and conversations. So, okay, we now identified opportunities for growth, maybe various room for improvement, or again, where we've been really successful and how and why did that happen. And we don't wait 3 years to then go reevaluate that again. It's to have a consistent conversation so we're able to see internally, are we doing better? Are we still staying stagnant? And it's a good check-in for accountability.
Yeah. Thank you for serving on that committee, and I think Dr. Richardson, you did as well, right? Thank you for doing so. I think this was just an update, so I don't think we need 5 to move it forward.
No.
So we'll move on to the K-12 Student Parent Handbook, which we have all our friends here tonight.
And Dr.
Boyers again.
Coming.
I would make one of them do it.
Yeah, so this evening we have a high-level overview of our summary of changes in our handbooks. You can see a lot of them are technical, based upon staffing, things of that nature, links, as we update links, update policies, making sure that there's good access to that as parents go to find good information as they review those respective handbooks. And so what we have listed here is a comprehensive document that goes over each school building and or program, such as the kindergarten handbook and things of that nature that outlines those updates. We do have our administrative team here. I want to thank them for their tireless work as well as their internal teams that develop these documents. So if there are questions, I may be able to answer some, and others I would defer to our admin team who are experts in those spaces.
I would just add that most districts, when they're moving their student parent handbooks forward, they're not including a kindergarten handbook. We do that specifically because of the transition of our families that are coming into our school system so that they have a detailed understanding of what the expectations are and about the transition. And the same is true about our Plum Digital Learning Academy, PDLA. Mr. Hartman does an exceptional job of offering those online services, and many of our families have decided to come back to the district or have a blended approach, and it's because of the good work that he's done. In our pupil services, you know, we have several families that experience homelessness, and this is a valuable handbook in regards to when this occurs, and just a valuable resource for them. So I really feel that the team that's sitting over to my right goes above and beyond to make sure that the resources that are available to our families to understand operations and our procedures do an excellent job of making sure that we're communicating all aspects of what we can offer students coming into the district.
And I do want to extend a quick thank you to Mr. Biss and Ms. Gibson. I don't know that the homeless liaison handbook has been given the attention to detail that it has this past go-around. Mr. Biss really has dove into updated procedures and operations and really has streamlined the approach there. And although there's a few cells that he highlights the information on, it's good quality work that allows us to function organizationally and take care of kids. And so I really want to thank the two of them for their efforts.
Any questions? Okay. Dr. Shulo, with the Student Code of Conduct.
What can we do? Do we have 5
I'm
to
sorry.
move
Yes.
those forward?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Before I begin, we've been thanking the endless work that we do here in the school district in regards to our strategic goals. But one thing before I begin, I would like to thank our core team that dedicates the time here to the Student Code of Conduct for the school district. In addition to that would be Dr. Zarmak and Mr. Bauman, and then our expanded team included all of our administrators. And you've heard the word process used often the short time we've been together tonight, and it truly is a process here whenever we sit down this time of year to examine our code of conduct. And in addition to that, we take the time to really analyze what is in our code of conduct, what are other school districts doing, what are our comparable school districts doing from the balanced scorecard. So what you see tonight is a summary of changes that we are proposing here to the school board for the 2024-25 Student Code of Conduct. Some of the changes involve some tweaks with a few words, such as page 6 with our academic integrity, removing world language and including content and subject with that. More so, several of the changes will deal with the dress code. We really wanted to take the opportunity here to look at our dress code and building consistency from kindergarten through 12th grade. We believe in looking at our dress code and the changes that are proposed. How we arrived to this is we did take the time again to look at our balanced scorecard comparable school districts, including Upper St. Clair, Mount Lebanon, Peters Township, Fox Chapel, and Hampton. In addition to that, we also looked at some of the surrounding school districts to Plum Borough, including Franklin Regional, Gateway, and Riverview, to name a few. And we really vetted this out and looking at some of the language we had in the code of conduct regarding dress code. And we believe what we're proposing tonight will not only continue to best serve our students, but will continue to help keep our schools safe so that our students can focus on their education. One of the things we looked at was previous code of conduct. We had the fingertip length for shorts and for skirts. And we believe the language that we are proposing here will make this even more manageable and consistent, kindergarten through 12th grade, in talking about the length of short skirts and dresses for any student or not to expose undergarment or private areas when standing, moving, bending, or sitting. In addition to that, as I move on here with proposed changes, in working with Mr. Coles in transportation, we're looking to ask families and students to arrive to the bus stop 10 minutes as compared to 5 minutes prior to the school bus arriving. And the last few changes you see there regarding transportation is the riding permissions of buses. Mr. Coles would like to see that come from the transportation department. With that, any questions?
Thank you for the dress code changes. I think that would be more uniform, and we all know that I've been pretty critical of kids being dress coded because I feel it was completely unfair the way things were going. But I know it's unintentional. It was the way the dress code was written. I appreciate the changes. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The only one comment I would make on both, all of the handbooks and the code of conduct is just, and I don't know who does the final look at them, there were a couple formatting things that looked a little bit off, and pictures looked stretched instead of, you know, like,
We'll make those corrections.
dimensions or whatever, ratios. Okay. Do we have 5 to move the student code of conduct forward? Thank you. All right, the school calendar.
Long and awaited.
So what you see in front of you is our proposed 24-25 calendar. Just want to talk about some of the nuances of how we arrived at this calendar. First and foremost, there was more recent legislation that came out, I think roughly November, December, that switched one term, that's an important term. And so previously the legislation said that we had to have 180 school instructional days and 900 and 990 instructional hours for our students. The legislation has shifted to change the word from and to or. I'm happy to report that this calendar actually still meets both criteria. We received some good feedback, and credit to Dr. Walsh and one of his networking opportunities where we were told as a district that, hey, we've given you flexibility, but don't go out and crazy because we can always pull that right out, just as they did this year when they changed it in November, in a part of the year. And so regardless, we're going to continue to look to the future and what other districts are doing and how we can position ourselves, but this district as proposed does meet those criteria. Second is we took a data-driven approach and we conducted a 3-year analysis on absenteeism of professional staff and operational staff. And really looking at that as opportunities that emerge and how can we really expand upon that in an effort to ensure our kids are receiving instruction. When we have 30% of our staff members out, we have to cancel classes in some spaces, and we have 200 kids sitting in an auditorium. That's not productive for anybody. But ultimately, we have staff shortages, and we try to fulfill those absentee spots, but they are very difficult. And so again, I think through that analysis and through that lens, that gives us an opportunity to potentially capture those days differently in an effort to continue to maximize instructional time. The other piece of this is, again, that we took the approach of spreading our professional development throughout the entire 24-25 school year. In years past, our calendars have been very front-heavy and very end-of-the-year heavy. And that was intentional because of our program reviews and making sure we can get some of that training happening. This calendar still allows that to happen for that training, for those resources, but also gives us good touch points throughout the entire school year to work with our staff on good teaching and learning practices and strategies. One of the changes that's important to note is a new term or a new event called Meet the Teacher. And so the Meet the Teacher approach takes the self-guided building walkthrough and open house and kind of marries the two together. And so what we feel important is that when students have anxiety or stressors or things of that nature, that when they walk in day one, they're going to be able to immediately put a name with a face because of this event. And so there'll be opportunities for parents and guardians to bring their students to the respective buildings, but the teachers will be present. And so you won't be hearing about what your kids are going to be learning about in October now. You'll be hearing a good synopsis about the learning opportunities that are going to exist in those classrooms on that first day of Meet the Teacher. And so we've ironed out the details on this. We're going to kind of split for an elementary walkthrough, and then the second day will be a secondary walkthrough to allow parents that have students in multiple buildings, kind of that breather, so they're not rushing from building to building to building, and they have adequate time. And so that allows that to occur. The other piece that's new is highlighted in green on September 30th is we're going to put forth an immediate flexible instruction day. We have been watching this from our surrounding districts and learned from them. The last asynchronous day I believe that we actually had in this district, I believe will be now, because this year hopefully no more snow, will be 3 years removed. And so our kids that are matriculated in first and second grade have never actually experienced an asynchronous day. And this gives the district an opportunity to really work out those kinks. And so we're working with PBA right now to kind of finalize what this day looks like. Our preliminary thoughts is that it will be a blend of an asynchronous day and a synchronous day. The asynchronous portion allows us to really test the functionality of Google Classroom, Wi-Fi capacity, what families may need, hotspots and things of that nature, and to really test some of those mechanisms. And then also during that day, we're going to start to record some navigation of Google Classroom. So in the event that we ever have to go asynchronous again, we have that pre-populated there for review.
I'm going to jump in for a second, Dr. Boyers. I just want to talk a second about the asynchronous day on September 30th. As this board is aware that the flexible instructional day, which is now will be highlighted in regards to expectation on the calendar, that is obviously if we have people mostly think of it as a snow cancellation, but it could be in regards to a threat, and it could require us to shut down our building up to 5 days. The reason we're recommending this day is to make sure that our students have the capacity, and there's an equity piece, that they can log on from home and that their video's working, that their audio's working, and that students that need a hotspot, that we would provide those hotspots for them in the event that we would go down the road. Another piece of this is that our first snow day, because we're adding this synchronous day, will be a true cancellation. So that will be another shift. Only that first day will be a true cancellation. Okay, so I just want to make the board aware of some of our thinking behind this. We want to make sure that our kids have the ability with the school district provided Chromebook, if they need a hotspot, and what other needs they may have. And it gives us an opportunity to get in front of it in the event that we would have to shut down school because of snow or other incidents later in the school year.
I have a quick question. Is it asynchronous?
Well, what we're looking at is it would be
we cancel or we change.
It would be asynchronous, but we're looking at maybe during homeroom, and we're working with the association on this, that there needs to be a time that our students log on and we see them, we hear them, and we test to make sure that the devices are working.
Okay.
So it's more, we don't want them on the screen all day, right? So we want to make sure that we're able to deliver synchronous and asynchronous instruction as the school year goes on. So we're going to blend it, and we're going to work and communicate that plan once this is approved.
Yeah, it's got to be something like you got to log in at this time or you're
9 o'clock, whatever it may be.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely.
Because I see that unfolding in my own house.
And I also wanted to mention that we would have a true cancellation on that first snow day too. Okay.
And I think to your point, it's the training even that can happen September 25th or 26th in the building of, we're going to do this. When you go to do this,
Absolutely.
This is what's going to happen when you're at home. Okay, September 30th, now you're at home, let's practice for real. So it's instead of just, oh my goodness, here it happened, and now everybody's kind of acting on the fly.
Sorry for the interruption on that.
No, we respect that parents and guardians, especially for our younger students, are helping to navigate too, and so that's an opportunity to kind of work through that process with them.
Yep.
And there's a lot.
While we're talking about that, the Meet the Teacher, that will be an opportunity, as Dr. Boyer said, but our teachers are also, we're working with the association that they're going to post their curriculum and have videos available for parents. Typically what they would normally say during a curriculum night, and it would be posted all year long for our families. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh. And I think the last part is Dr. Walsh's probably most exciting part of the calendar is we're not going to hide graduation any longer. It's going to be posted. And so you can see that graduation will take place on the 28th of May in 2025, barring any crazy cancellations or anything else, but we're good above the hour threshold. And then if any adjustments need to be made, we will communicate that in early April as noted on this calendar. Any questions or concerns about the proposed calendar?
I like Kennywood Day.
I do have a question. You're saying the first snow day will be canceled?
Just like it has been for some time, yes.
A good old 1980.
Good old snow day, yes.
Like go play in the snow.
Okay, I'm trying to just remember, because did we have it that it's asynchronous?
No, this will be a clear cancellation.
This year.
Yeah, we did this year, yes.
Yeah.
With the new regulation, we go above the number of days and the number of hours, and by adding this synchronous day, we have the flexibility now that if we have 8 inches of snow on the ground, we're just going to cancel school for all. Okay, just that first day.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have 5 to move that forward? Thank you. I gotta find my agenda. Okay, 2024 summer program.
Mr. Hartman?
Good evening, everyone. I'd be remiss if I didn't start off by thanking those that assisted with the process for our summer programs handbook. Dr. Shulo, Ms. Gibson, Mr. Loletta, just to name a few that really helped with kind of the major components of the program offering that we're able to provide over the summer months. and obviously to our board as well, thank you for continuing with allowing us to offer these programs. It certainly does help a large majority of our students indirectly when we're not in the school building, but certainly helps to propel and keep the kids prepared for the upcoming school year. So really minor changes this year to the summer programs handbook. It's a lot of technical piece, updating of links and dates obviously reflect the summer. There was some information that was updated in the pupil services section in regards to counselor and social worker availability over the summer, and FBR services that were provided throughout the school year. Students could continue those if they were receiving services during the school year. They could continue those this summer again. Likewise with credit recovery, that program has shown a lot of success in the past, and there's a chunk of students that need that opportunity to make up and recover credit. So we will offer those credit recovery courses again this summer. And the extended school year will again be provided to those students with an IEP that qualify for those services. Likewise, the English language learners have that opportunity with that programming as well. And then there are some regional or local programs that are available to students where we're in coordination with the library as well as STEM camp, Camp Convention, and some others that are offered at some of our buildings. So again, it's very similar to what's been done the past few years, but just some minor tweaks here and there. Any questions or concerns?
Any? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have 5 to move that forward? Thank you. Okay, and then we are to the 24-25 IU Program of Services.
So I can handle that, Dr. Anderson. So in front of you is the AIU Program Services, and I would direct the board's attention to pages, I believe it's 5, 6, and 7. If you look at all the services that the AIU offers, the Plum Borough School District, you'll notice that there's an X beside the service. We receive quite a bit of support from our Allegheny intermediate unit. The budget that is attached is approximately about a 2% increase. And if you look at, I believe it's on page 15, well, I'm sorry, 17, that our annual cost for all of those services and the support is about, in the past, it was $45,404. It's an increase of 2% of about $1,100 going into the 24-25 school year. We rely on the Allegheny Intermediate Unit to support our students, especially in the pupil services. And I believe we get a lot of benefit for that cost.
Any questions? Okay. Do we have 5 to move it forward? Thank you. Okay, letter H, the 2024 First Step Driving School Annual Agreement Renewal.
It's just an annual agreement that we have with First Step Driving School every year, and it's an annual agreement.
Anybody have any questions? Do we have 5 to move that forward? Okay. And then we have Colonel Nossick and Master Sergeant Butler requesting the overnight trip for the JROTC to participate in the Curriculum and Action Program in DC at the Langley Air Force Base at the end of April and at no cost to the district. Anything further down to it?
No. Great opportunity.
Yep, absolutely. Do we have 5 to move that forward? Thank you. And then we have Mr. Bronchi requesting an overnight trip for 2 students to go to the Western Region Orchestra Festival at Butler Intermediate High School, March 21st through the 23rd. About approximate cost of $1,000 to the district. And I know we recognized our students here a couple weeks ago, which was awesome. Any questions, concerns? Do we have 5 to move that forward? Thank you. And Mrs. Loy requesting an overnight trip with 10 students participating to attend the PMEA All-State Band Festival from the 17th to the 20th at approximately a cost of $6,000 to the district. Any questions on that one? Do we have 5 to move it forward? Oh, we're getting tired. Do we have 5 to move it forward? Oh, yeah, sorry. All right. How about this? Any objections? Anybody not moving? All right. Thank you. Okay, and then we have Mr. Huffman and Ms. McPherson requesting an overnight trip for the Technology Association to attend the state competition in Seven Springs, the 17th through the 21st, at an approximate cost of $4,000 to the district. Any questions? Anybody opposed to it? Do we have 5 to move it forward? All right, thank you. All right, Mrs. Heffern requesting to attend the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association Annual PMEA Conference in Erie, the 18th and the 19th, at approximately a cost of approximately $300 to the district. Any concerns, any questions? Do we have 5? Thank you. And then Dr. Boyer's retroactive request to go to the PDE annual conference that he went to February 28th through March 1st at an approximate cost of $1,100. Dr. Boyers, anything to add about it?
Just want to thank the board for the opportunity to represent the Plum Borough School District. Had some good learning. One of the surprise guest speakers was Governor Shapiro. And the one thing that Governor Shapiro talked about is his dedication to increasing funds for students with special education needs. And so we'll see if he follows through on that, but it was kind of unique to hear about his commitment to education and where he foresees his budget moving. And so just want to provide that quick update.
Thank you for that. And thank you for being willing to go. Do we have 5 to move that forward? Thank you. And lastly, Ms. Sedlak, requesting to attend the PA Association of Pupil Services Administrators in Lancaster, the 10th through the 12th of April, at approximate cost of $1,100. Questions, concerns? Do we have 5 to move that forward? Thank you. All right, that's all for academic.
I was just going to add, thank you, Dr. Anderson. I just want to thank our team of administrators. As I'm looking at the clock, I realize that some of them will be returning back to the district in about 10 or 11 hours from now. So I just want to thank them for their time, and they could feel free if they want to depart. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, no agenda items for community engagement, inclusion, and outreach. We'll move on to finance. Mr. Stropke, lead board liaison. All you.
Item A is the February financial report. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Five, and we have to move it forward. Yep. And now for the fun topics. I'm gonna turn the budget workshop over to Mr. Manzer, who, him and his team has spent many hours, preparing for this, continue to prepare for this. We had a budget workshop in December. This is a continued follow-up as they're working with the different departments on budgets for the 24-25 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Strupke. If you want to just go to the timeline, just give you an idea of where we've been and where we're going. We did approve the opt-out resolution, which limited our millage increase to 7.1%. We did that in December along with a budget workshop. Next slide. And then additionally too, as far as the proposed final budget adoptions, is that our cycle is going to be April, the proposed final, and then for May is the final budget adoption. And then there's some advertising requirements in there too that will follow. Just again to reiterate, the December budget workshop, you're able to look back. We tend to do a review of past results in addition to some forecasting that has assumptions built in. And additionally, we try to hit hard on some of our key performance indicators and then kind of continue to provide that long-range analysis as well. Just to hit on some of the key provisions of Governor Shapiro's budget, really a dramatically different budget than what has been presented in the past. Really the Basic Education Funding Commission was the basis for his budget proposal. He proposed $1.1 billion increase in the basic education funding formula, and that'd be a 13.6% increase. A large portion of that was dedicated to the adequacy investment, and that was a recommendation coming from the majority report of the basic education funding formula. I'll go into the details a little bit on the next slide, but one thing to note is that there were two reports that were issued. There was the majority report that was supported by the governor, but there was also a minority report that was issued that did not contain any type of monetary investments or reference to an adequacy investment. So it is a little bit of a divisive topic, I believe, one that probably needs to be negotiated by all parties, and we'll see if the approach is to do something like an adequacy investment, or if it'll just be really drawn out through the traditional funding formula. He did propose also contributing to the $200 million through the general traditional funding formula, and I'll have those numbers for you as well. $50 million to the special education funding formula. That was an interesting one, even with Dr. Boyer's comment, is that we were kind of surprised by that, is that we thought there would be a larger investment in special education. So we're hoping that through budget negotiations that number will increase, but traditionally we have seen more money contributed towards special education funding because we know the costs are rising in that area. Happy to report too is that the PCCD funding for physical safety and also the mental health support is the same as the previous year, which we're hoping we can start to count on that money. We haven't really counted on it yet, and we were encouraged to see that it was put into school code and that there was consistent funding, and then we're hoping that that really becomes a funding source that we really can include in our budget. Right now we do not include those allowances, and when we get them, then we increase our budget for those amounts. So we're not risking putting revenue in our budget that we're not going to receive. Just the other one, maybe a couple more, is that the school environmental repair and improvement grants, there's funding there. We are going to, the environmental one is more for asbestos and mold remediation, but there is an improvement grant as well that they released and is open right now that we're going to try to pursue, most likely towards some of our cleaner projects as far as being able to apply quickly. Roofing is one of them that we're going to key in on, and then possibly some HVAC needs throughout our buildings. The statewide cyber tuition rate that was proposed of $8,000, very encouraging. Their savings would be approximately $250,000 to the district. It only revised the regular tuition rate. It did not revise at all the special education tuition rate. And the special education tuition rate is costly for us and all districts. So it is not a full reform of the system, but it does provide relief, and it would provide immediate relief. And we do feel like they are, the charter schools are overfunded. There's been a lot of talk about what their fund balances look like, and this would be a really good reform if we could, any reform, we'll take any reform we can get on cyber charter, and this would be definitely a step in the right direction. Again, we're not anticipating any of these savings in our budget because this has been proposed before and it's been trouble getting it across the finish line. But any advocacy that we can do individually as a school district, whatever it may be, on this topic is really important. And I think there's a lot of people throughout the state, a lot of school districts throughout the state that are also advocating for this. So I think it's being heard. That's why it's part of the proposal, but we need to continue to advocate for it. You can go to the next slide. So this is some of the nitty-gritty of the proposal for the basic education and the special education funding. I grayed out a few areas of this, so hopefully we can point them out. But about the fourth column in from the top has a proposed adequacy investment of $1.2 million. And then that's the major driving factor of the governor's proposal. And then just to the left of that in the third column is the $200 million that was added to the basic education funding formula, that $184,000. So we're only really going to count on a minimal increase like that in our basic education funding formula. We're not really going to count on the proposed adequacy investment. The second row of this slide kind of breaks out how that adequacy investment is calculated. So they take our student weighted count and multiply it by a adequacy target figure. And from, I don't have all the details on this, but that is geared towards current expenditures, and it calculates, where we should be based on the adequacy formula versus where we are. And they identified that gap was that $7.1 million. Very simply in the budget is that they're going to give us 1/7 of that over 7 years to get us towards fulfilling that full adequacy gap. There isn't a lot of detail as far as how it can be committed 7 years into the future, if that number will change every year and be recalculated. It's sort of unknown how that would go into the future. And definitely as multi-year budgeting approach has been pursued and even recommended, but it's very difficult to actually deliver when you have a changing legislature. So that $1 million is just the adequacy supplement that is calculated at 1/7. They also have a second component of the adequacy investment, and that is based on the tax equity. So essentially, they are looking at your local effort in taxes and comparing it to what they feel like your effort should be. You have to have a adequacy supplement to be able to be eligible for the tax equity supplement. So they're saying two things for our district is that one, we are spending under the amount that we should as far as cost per student, and also we are taxing above the amount that we should for our the characteristics of our district, median income, number of households, that sort of thing. So the part, if you look at not only Plum's, but throughout the state, I think where this becomes problematic is that we're eligible for both and have a significant investment there. There is a significant number of districts that are eligible for neither and would get zero. And so you can see how the votes may drive some of this decision making to make sure that it's, that more districts are receiving funding to be able to have more people support the legislation. That's what I worry about the most. But this does show that, that the proposal is that the state would provide a serious investment in ensuring that our spending is adequate and also our taxes are, we'd have an opportunity to either steady our taxes or to lower them. So the proposed special education funding is listed for you there as well. That's how that $50 million breaks down for us, is it'd be $119,000, which is about a 4% increase. This is the thing we've talked a lot about internally, and I've sliced and diced this in a number of different ways. This chart was provided by the IU for us, and I pulled out every single school that had a enrollment of between 3,000 and 4,000. And I think it's one of those surprising things, I think, when I look at it, is that we are 40th in cost per student. So that means that we are really, really efficient in our cost per student.
Out of 42.
Yes, yes. And it's just something that is, I think that we have to understand is that, where we are in that cost per student. And you can look at it, two different ways as far as being very efficient, or are we investing enough? And I like to look at it as being very efficient, but it is to note that we are 40th, and it's really surprising when you see, and I think some of the characteristics of some of the other districts, you might think, maybe there's additional charter spending that they're doing, maybe there's additional facility spending. There could be a lot of different reasons for differences in district to district. But if you move across to, you can look at our millage rate. We're 27th. Very middle of the pack there on millage rate, and additionally too with value of the mill, you'll see that if you have a very high value of a mill, your millage rate is probably going to be lower, and so those kind of play off one another. If our mills continue to grow, particularly in the corporate development, you're not getting students with that. And you wouldn't have to raise taxes as much. If you have a very residential population like we do, those come with students, and it comes with more cost. And so that's a part of the reason why you'll see is that some of the millage rates are different. They just might have a different blend, commercial versus residential.
I want to add that during our internal conversations about this slide, I think Mr. Manders used the word efficient. Out of 42 districts in Allegheny County, we're 40th in regards to cost per pupil. If you look at the districts that are around us in this part of the county, especially that I think most of them are looking at leveraging taxes this year, they're approaching $100 million budgets. We're at 70 million. Part of what we've had is that we believe our students get a first-rate education, and we are fiscally responsible of how we go about and we conduct our business. And I think this slide demonstrates that, and it's apparent in regards to the general fund balance and the cost per pupil compared to the other districts, not only in the county, but our neighboring districts also.
And I think you can kind of see it start connecting the dots a little bit, is that the adequacy investment that was proposed versus our costs per student. I think there's a correlation there. You can go to the next slide. So to just give you some high-level overviews of our revenues and expenses as we look at the details of the budget. We'll hold on the current real estate, and I'll show you how that's calculated. But inflationary pressures is good for revenue. We are experiencing increases in earned income tax, the real estate transfer tax as well. We feel very comfortable in increasing. Our interest earnings are really, really great, but I will caution is that it can fall off the table. So this is one of these things where I've been very hesitant to continue to add revenue to our budget that we're counting on to balance our budget, but it is very difficult to ignore. So this is still a fairly conservative increase that we're seeing. We would experience that this year and next year we're still going to have positive variances in interest, but it is definitely something to watch as the market turns around, is that we might have to look at this item, and when we're lowering that, it's going to be a little bit more painful than when it's going up. For state revenue, just being conservative again, we adjusted for prior year increases to get us where we're currently at, plus only included the $200 million in BEF and the $50 million in special education funding. And then a few other adjustments too. The big one, and we've been talking a lot about it, and really for years, as far as the expiration of federal funding, we currently have $1.1 million in our budget for ESSER funding, COVID-related funding, and that is going to completely drop off the table. And we're working to close out those grants right now, but that is a big driver of this budget, is the loss of those federal funds.
Ryan, if I could interject, I'm sorry. I participated in the PSBA governor's budget, so I wanted to clarify if anybody else did in the room. I don't know, it doesn't tell us who's on the thing. The $50 million for special education isn't just $50 million. He's adding $50 million to special education to offset the monies that the school districts are going to lose from federal funding. That was part of COVID. So our purpose is not an increase, right? But it should help us stay stagnant in the number. So I wanted to clarify that he's not just, it was to try to offset what we're losing statewide from COVID funds. So that the added 50 million, it's not just 50 million, it's added to the number.
I think, Ms. Stepnick, part of the challenge with that is the 500 districts in the Commonwealth.
Yep.
$50 million, looking at large districts like Philadelphia and the city of Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And what I've found in my time in Plum is that we're not big enough, we're not poor enough, we're not rich enough, and that's a challenge when we're applying for competitive grants. And we are applying and looking at alternative revenue, as you heard Mr. Manzer talk about. But that 50 million in looking at the entire Commonwealth, I'm not sure how much of that is really going to come to the district, you know.
Right.
Yep. Okay, on to expenses. So, you know, as we've discussed before, payroll and benefits are our largest cost. We very efficient on our payroll increases this year, less than 2%. And we had a number of retirements, and that has really held that number down. But of course, there is a large expense there. For medical too, we're holding a 12% increase. We did get notification that it could be between, I believe, 7.5% and 11.5%. So we likely will be able to bring that number down just a little bit. But we'll get that information here, I believe, next month. For the departmental budgets, we are forecasting a significant increase in tuition and special services for special education. So there's $550,000 there that we need to include in this budget. We're seeing overages in our current year budget and then projecting out in the future as well. You've heard about the transportation, the school bus cost increases. We've done a great job of accelerating those purchases this year. But again, over budget, and we need to make sure that we're able to fully pay for those vehicles that we need to purchase. Facilities, we've seen challenges this year in facilities. We're projecting out with Hayes Design the needs for repairs and maintenance in our buildings, and to be able to fund that plan as well. We're seeing a need for a significant investment there. For technology, I think they're coming off of a renewal cycle where they've been able to make some purchases with COVID dollars, and now they're having to sort of restart their cycle again. And so they need to purchase additional Chromebooks. There's security needs as well that are significant within their budget. And then also continuing to invest in our transportation technology that we've discussed a lot. One of our KPIs is to continue investing in our capital project fund transfers. So an additional $200,000 for a total transfer of $600,000. I really think paired with those facilities increases, we can start to be aggressive on addressing the needs of our buildings outside of the large projects that we've been discussing. And then all of the other departmental increases, which include all of our school buildings, human resources, superintendent's office, business office, all of those things, all of those increases are approximately $220,000, which that's a very small portion of our budget. Go to the next one. So this is just giving you the overview of our tax rate analysis of where we could be all the way from 0 to the full index. And what I always like to show is it shows the monthly increase at the bottom to the median assessed homeowner. And you can see the ranges anywhere from obviously $0 to $15 a month. And then the next one will show you a little bit more specifics as far as the proposal is again, we're trying not to exceed what we've already communicated, the 5.7%, and what that would be able to generate. And then you can see future forecasting as well. This is very similar to what we showed you in December, is the need for continued investments to be able to maintain. I think one thing I didn't really mention is that for all of our personnel changes, we're maintaining all of our positions. Some of those positions that were funded by federal funding, social workers, intervention teachers, all of those positions are maintained within this budget, and you'll see the needs to continue that investment into the future. Wanted to touch on the facility assessment recommendations. Really wanted to make sure too that we provided a history of what we've done. I think it's easier to forget all of the work that we've put in. We started all the way in September of 2022 with initial facility assessments. We did engage all of our teachers, students, parents, administrators, principals through that process as well. Multiple presentations by Hayes Design Group. We brought in PFM as well. They did 2 different presentations on analyzing the costs that were identified. And then we also recently performed our Davis demographic study. So we really have all of the information necessary to be able to make some really good decisions in relation to our buildings. Go to the next one. I felt like it was important to just kind of clearly consolidate what those PFM presentations entailed. And this provides sort of the 3 different options that they were able to build out for us in relation to our bond financing related to what we can afford. What I did is we put a box around the time frame from 2030 through 2041 related to this $30 million option that we've been discussing. And the thing I really like about this schedule is that it maintains a declining balance in your debt service. And it would provide you opportunity in the future to be able to do another project. I think that from what we've seen here is that it's very difficult to be able to afford doing both projects, both at O'Buck Elementary that we've discussed and the middle school at the same time. And this type of declining schedule would allow you to be able to come back. You can have either savings if you maintain that investment over time, or you can add additional debt service with limited millage impact. The second option that is provided could get you additional funding. However, you have really no opportunity to provide another project without increasing millage down the road. It is really not something I'd recommend. You're really going to bind yourself in the future, is that the only way that you'd be able to do a project is to be able to increase millage. And then finally, the $69 million option, if you wanted to try to accomplish both projects right now, really expensive. It's over a 10% increase in your millage that you would need. And it's just something, if you talk about $11 million a year, is just something that I don't think that we would be able to afford. And I would have concerns actually realistically implementing that millage over time to be able to stay within our index. I think I've provided some benefits. I think I've explained some on the right-hand side, some bullet points, but clearly it's the administrative recommendation is that you should pursue the $30 million financing option and to be able to provide yourself an opportunity to come back and do another project in the future down the road in your debt schedule.
I was going to add, Mr. Manzer, that, you know, it's nice that we're looking at these projects at O Block and the middle school, but one of the challenges is that and one of the reasons why we're recommending the $30 million financing option is because we still have to maintain our existing buildings. You drive into the parking lot and you look at the asphalt going around this high school, it is not going to be cheap to replace that. We are currently having conversations about repairing a roof at O Block in order to get us to a potential project in that building. And our swimming pool. I could go on in regards to the operation. We need to be able to maintain our existing structures while still moving the district forward. And I think that's something that's important when we're having this conversation. I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add to that.
Yeah, I agree. I think even too, there's going to be additional challenges down the road that you may not have forecasted. And I think having the flexibility, especially within your debt schedules, is important to maintain.
Just so I can clarify for everybody, when we did the presentation before, I mean, like when we were, if I may, just so everybody would understand, when we were borrowing for Regency, for example, we borrowed at that $10 million mark. That was never going to build Regency. It was never going to. But it was the start of the project, knowing we were also buying the bus garage, knowing that we were going to go through 2 fiscal cycles of paying down debt service to borrow the remainder that was needed for to completion of Regency based on the time frame of the construction project. So then you would borrow the other $3 or $4 million that was needed. But again, we were paying down some debt service while then going to borrow the remainder. The history is what it is, and I don't want to revisit that, but that was the purpose of how we did $10 million because we reached that cap. So as it was explained to us from Brown Council that would be, so you wouldn't be looking at saying, next year we're borrowing $30 million, right? It would be over the course of the time of the project.
Correct. Yeah, there's a bank qualified. If you're able to stay under 10 million,
right.
It's much cheaper, and then you can also refinance it more often.
Right.
So there's multiple advantages of doing that. So yeah, the next steps on this are, yeah, you want to put together, identify a project. You have to do a bid build design on that. It takes a significant amount of time. And then you, through that process, you're building out a draw schedule, and then you're matching your financing to your draw schedule.
Right.
And I would add, Ms. Sedlak, sorry, I do that all the time.
All the time.
Ms. Stepnick, I'm sorry, S and it just slides out because I say the other name most of the day. Is that part of the challenge that we have, and I will recall when I came into the district 5.5 years ago, our bond rating was not good. We're Moody's, we're at A-. We have made significant progress in regards to our financial structures and being fiscally responsible. This district is in financially much better shape than it was 5.5 years ago. But we still have the challenges of decisions that were made long before any of us were sitting around this table in regards to the debt that this district has. I think 5.5 years ago, we were approaching $130 million worth of debt. And we're approximately, what, 98?
Yeah, under 100 million, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around 100. So we're moving in the correct direction, and we want to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves and put this district in long-term financial harm and not being able to maintain our buildings or still move forward. Our recommendation, as Mr. Manzer said, is the $30 million financing option to focus our attention. I think this board saw firsthand the needs that are the needs at O Block Elementary. The Davis demographic shared with us that the population in that attendance area is growing, and that building is going to need more space. Even though Pivot is declining in population, we still need space for our learning support. We still need space for OT, PT. We still need these spaces. And it's not it's just right now, it's not a premium at our K-4 buildings. We want to make sure that, and this is a big decision this board has to make in regards to the direction in which we're moving. And this administration will recommend that any projects, that we fund those projects along the way. You know, there's been a history, I believe, in Plum is that let's, you know, move forward with this project or that project, and we'll figure out how we're going to pay for it later. We don't believe that's fiscally responsible. We're going to be recommending that any modifications or changes that we pay for it along the way, because we believe it's the fiscally responsible thing to do. And we believe it will leave the district in better position 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, because the decisions that this board will make will impact future boards and future community members. So
I think too, it's not just a Plum issue. It is very common in schools is to, you know, be able to be very excited about a project, borrow the funds, and then realize, oh no, I have to pay for this. And then you're looking at, you know, program reductions along with that. And that's one thing we want to make sure we don't get into.
No, and I think Joe does a nice job of laying all that out for us when we do it. But I wanted to explain for those that haven't done school construction and borrowing and, you know, it's not like we're going to go out and get a $30 million loan this year. It's going to be a process in how we get it, and it's spaced out over the course of the project. So it does provide the opportunity to pay some debt service down and pay as we're going kind of thing.
And I think that the Davis demographic gave us more information that we've been talking as an administrative team of going back to the Hayes Design Group and having conversations about their initial proposal and being fiscally responsible in regards to what our actual needs are moving forward. So.
Okay, you can go to the next one. This slide is very similar to the one that I showed you before, but it just layers in that capital need increase as well. So the very top line shows you what the operational increases are from the previous slide. The second red line there, pink line there, is the capital increase, and then you'll see the total increases that are needed. This is not easy to do. You'll see that, you know, it's a 4.5% increase over 3 years, and in year one, we propose to this year is to put in that 0.5% to demonstrate the willingness to move forward with these projects, and over the next 2 years is be able to fully fund the millage that would be required necessary to increase your debt service to pay for that $30 million option. The one thing that we're going to monitor too is that, you know, we have a high index right now, 7.1%. You do have to monitor your index moving forward. Is you have to make sure that you're staying under that threshold that is set by the state every year. And then the final slide.
I'm sorry, can I ask you a question on
yes.
that? Because I think you had mentioned that the 7.1 was high this year.
Yes.
What do we usually see?
It has really accelerated, and I think there's COVID reasons for that. Is just the math is that there's less jobs that were available. But yeah, it was 3%, 4%, and then it really accelerated to the 7%. The 7% is the highest I've ever seen. Okay. So I would anticipate, yeah, it's not going to drop right off, but it's going to be elevated for a little bit of time, but it's going to decrease over time.
Okay.
So you might only have.
You'll be okay with this?
The projections I've seen, yes.
Oh.
And there's the Independent Fiscal Office provides projections for this, and I can pull that out and share that with you. The final slide, I was asked to make sure that I address the full day kindergarten aspect of this as well. So I wanted to make sure that I just was able to demonstrate and build this layer into the analysis. So if full day kindergarten were to be pursued, there would be a whole additional step that you'd have to take to be able to absorb the operational increases for additional teachers, additional staff, and that would take a whole additional year of an increase. And I think part of the concern is when you start to look at this is it sustainable? Are you able to layer in the capital increases and then also layer in the full day kindergarten increases after you've been through that? And I think it's something that is a concern. And then as well, you know, I think the unanticipated things that could come up over this time frame is, you know, are there any state budget crises that come up that there's a lack of funding? Are there additional needs that come up in the district? And then when you start to think of too is that you're going to have to really start planning for your next building. You know, if the middle school is only addressed to a small extent and you need to come back and look at that building in the near future, you're going to need to start dedicating funds or dedicating assets towards that project. And I think you're going to have to really plan for that. And I would be concerned as far as having to continue to increase millage for operational needs in addition to doing the capital needs. Just a cautionary tale. Any questions on that aspect?
I was just going to reiterate what you said. You know, that is the fear, you know, not the fear, but that is the elephant in the room, so to speak, is if we go ahead today and borrow $30 million, and we go in and layer in additional programs down the road, what that's going to do to us, you know, if we only have, you know, as you said, if that 7.1% index starts to decline, and now in year 8 we get to hypothetically 3%, and now we've committed 30 million, and 5 years from now we commit another 30 million, 40 million, where are we going to be at 8 years from now? I think, you know, as a board, we've got to think beyond today and beyond one project, that we really realistically have to think about 2 projects in the next, I don't know, 10 years?
Yeah.
I mean, we really do have to think about that today as we make some decisions moving forward and what that looks like.
And I was part of the kindergarten task force. I know Mr. Caligiuri is on remotely. And I think that was part of the concern. I didn't meet anybody in the community that is against full day kindergarten. But the challenge is the cost and the space that's associated with bringing that program back. And that was, I believe the kindergarten task force was thoughtful in regard to their recommendation of revisiting this in the 25-26 school year, but to continue to move forward towards that goal. By looking at the building project, it would allow us space at O Block and at Pivic. I believe we have adequate space at our 5 through 12 buildings. But there is an additional cost of full day kindergarten and what that would mean for the taxpayers. So it is a conversation, and I credit Mr. Manzer for layering this in, because this board needs to be aware of what this administration was charged with moving towards full day kindergarten. We heard loud and clear that the community is in favor of it. But we also need to be transparent in regards to the costs associated with any program changes down the road, along with building projects and maintaining operations in the district. It is another layer that this slide clearly puts out to all to see there's a cost associated with it. So
100% there is, but I'd also like to say that it's not even required by state law to give it.
Correct.
A little more as well, but one of the things we found out from the kindergarten task force is that they were particularly concerned about kids who may need full day kindergarten because they didn't have full day preschool, or they might just be at risk. And we worked with EDS, who is our supplemental provider, to provide more scholarships. but maybe you could speak a little more to some of the things that we're talking about when it comes to hybrid.
So, some of the, what Mr. Caligiuri just mentioned is that there are districts that have a hybrid model in regards to looking at free and reduced lunch, a socioeconomic piece, a need in regards to students that may need modifications, adaptions, or specially designed instruction. And they have a process in kindergarten to identify students and offer select students a full day option. So we have reached out and we've communicated with schools that are currently doing that, have that option in the region, and we're continuously gathering information so that this board will have all options on the table. So that was one of the options, Mr. Caligiuri. But if you look at Mr. Manzer's proposal, that's looking at if we go full day, all students in fifth grade, because there are other ripples to this. It's just not the staffing. It's the spacing in our cafeterias. Now that we're not splitting AM and PM kindergarten, we may need additional buses and additional transportation, and it will take this administration time to do a comprehensive study in regards to what direction this board moves forward. We will give our recommendation, but ultimately, when this board votes, we will do our due diligence and make sure that that happens. But we want to be transparent in regards to there's other options on the table, and there's also,
Hold on, Mike, hold on.
Identify children who need full day kindergarten time and to work with EDS, because there are options for them, so that it's, I guess, I don't know the correct term, but scholarship, or it's low cost. So I just want the community to know that while we may not be going to full day kindergarten, we're trying to identify children who need it the most, and try to get them into the schools.
Can we use the IU for any of those services rather than EDS?
everything will be on the table. Everything, all options will be on the table. Looking at our current provider, looking at what we could offer as a district, and the direction we received by the 25-26 school year, the task force recommend revisiting this. Right now, we don't have the space in our K-4 buildings to offer this. So it is something that we're looking at. We're also looking at a variety of options of how we can better support our youngest learners in the community, from preschool through graduation. So there are ongoing conversations in regards to that, and we are still gathering information.
Okay, I got one more for you. This is the good stuff. Tax discount program. So we've talked about these in the past, but I wanted to make sure that we pointed them out and put them together on a slide for everybody. So there's the homestead exemption. The school provides notices to any resident that does not have a homestead exemption, and they're able to apply through the county for that, and they receive, if you're approved, you receive an exclusion from your assessed value, and that's worth approximately $270. There is also a property tax rent rebate program that is through the state, and there's eligibility requirements that are provided there as well, and these links should take you to the state site to be able to apply for that. I know that many tax services will help seniors apply for these rebates when they're doing their annual tax returns. And then the senior citizen tax relief program that is done here locally is that actually the county has a process through Act 77 that approves homeowners for their program, and then they share that information with us, and we provide a 5% discount on our real estate invoices, and that is administered by our local tax collector. And there's the criteria there as well to be eligible for that discount. Any questions for me?
I just have a comment.
I think it's important to be transparent, and I appreciate with the kindergarten that you have, you're painting a, clear picture for people. I think often, sometimes it's important for the public to see, at this proposed tax increase, what does that look like? What does it provide? What kind of services? If we go to this level, what does that look like? So I think the more transparent we can be and show the tangible takeaways, that will help a lot of people kind of know, what their tax dollars look for in real life.
Yep.
Do we publish these tax discount programs on our website or anything?
Yes.
I know, we do, okay.
Yep. Under the finance tab, there's a tax discount link.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just two last comments. One is, again, Mr. Manzer put the budget together, and it's all based on, facts, as we know today. If the governor's budget does come through and the legislator works through it, and we can see, another $1.5 million or $2 million coming to the district, that's obviously going to offset future potential increases down the road. So this is very conservative, and there is that down the road. And the second one is, I just read another story about a local school district who's in the middle of a project who got put on hold because they've gone through superintendent changes and other changes, and they're being faced with a huge amount of additional costs for project costs, that if we are going to commit ourselves to $30 million, that we have to be all in, not decide this year or next year, and then 2 years from now, a new board comes in, puts a hold on it, it's going to be detrimental to the taxpayers. So, I think we have to be, if we're going to do it, we have to be all in.
100%, Mark, because we're in this position for some of this because we set a direction. A new board came in, canceled that direction. New board comes in, and that's happened, and it's got to stop. If a direction is set, there's sort of a professional courtesy that needs to be given to the time and effort and research that went into creating these conversations. And by the way, we have them in public monthly. So, and as we go to do different things, you have different public conversations or workshops or roundtables if we need to. But if, like you said, if we're all in, then we're all in. It doesn't mean, next year's an election year, so we might change that. We might be able to stop that. If you're running for this and you want to be on this board, there's got to be a consistency, because that's what makes a difference to our children. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Stropke has said that, and Dr. You, Dr. and Mrs. Stepnick, you have said that, and I know we've had conversations, and Dr. Walsh, you've said that, we need to come up with a methodology of communicating this to the public. And I think Mrs. Chudderwitz is saying some of that too, so that we're showing, we're committing to this, we're all in, and here's why we're all in, and this is what's going to happen as a result of it. This is the long-term plan that we're trying to do, and being able to communicate that in such a way that when a new board comes in, it's fully visible to them as well, that they can see, what that long-term planning has looked like.
And I think part of that communication plan is just not reaching out to the families that have children in the district. Mm-hmm. We should be reaching out to all the taxpayers in the community. What this board will hear in the coming months from this administration is a vision and a process of how we're going to move this district forward, looking at what we expect from our high school graduates. When they graduate, what do we want them to know and be able to do? Are we preparing them for the 21st century? And really some guiding principles in moving this district forward. But part of that is a communication piece. Mm-hmm. Because what I've learned, and even, when something happens in the district, I usually have 3 or 4 people that will email me or reach out to me and say, I saw something on Facebook and it must be true. We need to do a better job of communicating and getting our message out. And that is going to be a piece that this board will hear in regards to recommendations moving forward. Because this board needs to get its message out in regards to what's happening in the next month, 6 months, next year, long-range plans 5 years down the road. So this will be forthcoming. During the transition, I spent most of the first semester of working with this board on policies and internal organization. What you're going to start hearing from this administration team is the vision of where we want to take this district and how we're going to communicate it and how we're going to work together in doing so. So.
And I think all this needs, like the asterisk at the very bottom, nothing has been decided yet.
That's why it's called a discussion meeting, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say. It's
And
a
a budget
workshop.
workshop, that's
It's a workshop.
exactly right.
There's no decision to be made today.
Yep, that's exactly right. Okay, so on that note, there's no decisions that we're making today or moving anything forward, so. You want to do letter C?
Yeah. Letter C was the exoneration of the tax collector. Mr. Manzer, if you just want to give a quick update from the last time.
Sure, yeah, we appreciate working with the tax collector to provide a reconciliation that we feel comfortable moving this forward.
And we need 5 because we have to sign off on that, so 5 to move that forward. And then the last item is the annual financial statement. We did receive that. We got an update, I think, back in January. From
December, January, yeah.
From Dursal, the CPAs.
Yep.
We got a good, clean audit. Everything is fine there. We got an opinion that was good. So any comments to the work that your group has done? I think they've done a great job. Audits are always not fun to go through. They take a lot of time.
It's all right.
There's a lot of good information in there. If you want to read it, it's maybe put you to sleep, but if you have any questions, just let me know.
That's just informational.
That's just informational, yeah, there's nothing to.
Perfect, so nothing on Forbes Road?
You would want to move forward those financial statements.
Oh, we do?
The financial we do,
Yeah,
right? We have to
okay.
get board approval on them. Yep. So we have 5 to move it forward.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so Forbes Road, CTC, nothing there. Intergovernmental, nothing there. Legislative, Mrs. Stepnick, we board liaison.
As you can see, we have 3 candidates for the Healthcare Consortium, and there's 1 position. Does anybody have a preference? I don't have a recommendation.
Do we have the information there, yeah.
Right, they didn't link any.
I think there were resumes attached.
Yeah, and so they're
Inside
not
the
all, I can't open
candidates,
them all.
Yeah.
inside the candidates link, if you scroll down, all of their bios are in
Yeah, and
that
mine
scroll
wasn't
down.
opening all of them. Something bizarre, I don't know why.
But we would be looking forward to move one of these names forward for vote on the next meeting.
I will say the Healthcare Consortium does a very good job because every year we over budget, but we have to because they say this might be the estimate, and they do work really well. I can't, my thing won't go all the way down. I don't know what to say about that.
John Detweiler graduated from Penn State, I'm just saying.
I saw that post.
Well, then he's out. Like, I will say, I believe Roger has certainly provided a lot of time and effort and on this, so I would recommend, but I don't know the other 2, and I can't get their whole thing. My screen will not go down. I even tried it on my phone.
The other option we could do is just agree to move the option of all 3 forward. That gives you 2 weeks to look at this document more clearly, and then we can do either hand raise votes or a roll call vote to determine which of those 3 at the March 26th meeting.
That sounds like a perfect
Yeah, let's
option.
do that. Can you somehow send it to me differently? Because I can't, I go to like page 3 and 4, and then I can't go beyond it.
It does have personally identifying information, that's why their specific bios weren't posted publicly.
Yeah, right. Maybe you can
But I
send her
can
the link,
email
email her the
it
link.
to,
I know, I could see the 9 pages, I couldn't even see it on my phone. Like, I could see the 9 pages. I
We'll
can't get
resend
beyond
this
it.
tomorrow morning to all the board members.
Thank you.
So 5 to move that as option.
Yeah.
Good, okay. All right, so operations, Mr. Adams, lead board liaison.
Good evening. First, letter A, online security awareness training subscription. Dr. Boyers, anything to comment there?
That's the Know Before platform that we utilize to train staff relative to cybersecurity, and so just making sure that we're protecting ourselves in that space.
Vital. All right. 5?
Yep.
All right, B, take homes requesting to attend a third-party tester training from April 8th to 12th at no cost to the district. I believe this is so we can train in-house or CDO?
Correct, yeah, we'll actually be able to test people here rather than send them somewhere else for the final test. Yep.
All right, any comments? 5?
Yeah, love it.
All right, and take homes requesting to attend the Transportation Instructor Coordinator Workshop in Harrisburg from July 15th and 19th at an approximate cost of the district of $1,000. Mr. Manager.
So he's currently an instructor coordinator, and this will allow him to continue to do so.
All right. 5. Thank you.
Okay, personnel, Mr. Caligiuri, lead board liaison, there's nothing to discuss this evening. And then policy, Ms. Aaron.
Good evening, everyone. We have 7 policy items to present tonight, 2 of which are new. 5 include modifications to existing district policies, all of which appear to be PSBA changes noted in green text in the documents. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize that this is the first reading for all of these policy items. We will revisit these at the next discussion meeting as well for a second reading. So the first item we have here is policy 200, enrollment of students.
I would just add that policy 200 and 202, the language is for our military families. It's just updating to give the utmost flexibility to our military families.
Okay, 209.1, food allergy management.
So we're replacing the standing orders for food allergy management, which we did not previously have. And Ms. Sedlak has been working with our nursing department in the recommended changes. So there's an opportunity for the board to review that in the community.
And 210, medication.
Same thing in regards to being compliant with state law and regulations.
I have a question on the medication one.
Mhm.
How does this fit into, I know, is it 5th grade and above or 6th grade and above? If they can come down to the nurse and get like Tums or Tylenol or ibuprofen, that's not a prescription. Does this policy need to address that, or is that somewhere in another policy?
I would,
Because this says prescribed,
yeah.
so.
Typically, we're not going to give students medication without a standing doctor's order or without permission from the parent. So I would say, since this is the first reading, I would give Ms. Sedlak an opportunity to come back and investigate that a little further for you.
Yep.
I don't want to give you some misinformation on that, so I apologize for the delay. Okay.
Oh, I just did registration for my son for kindergarten. And I believe they asked if over-the-counter medication can be administered.
We need parent.
Yeah, parent
to it.
consent has
Yeah.
to be given.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say that in this policy.
It says it at the top,
It says.
the
parent-
definitions.
I thought it said parent consent and.
It says, for purposes of this policy, medication shall include all medicines prescribed by a licensed prescriber and any over-the-counter, and then licensed prescribers, who they would be. And then it did say that a parent can, where did I read? It said something that a parent can, I mean, Mrs. Sedlak can give that better, but.
Yeah, just clarification, because I read it as you need both, not one or the other.
Okay.
I'll follow up with Ms. Sedlak, but currently when our parents fill out the annual acknowledgement and go through our student information system, they can delineate Tums and things of that nature that they consent for our nurses to give, but I'll get clarification on that.
Right. And maybe we need a line in there, I'm sorry, I don't know if I keep forgetting. Maybe we need a line in there just to, reference our own policy about Tylenol, Motrin, or Tums, or the basics that, we would need to be able to give our kids.
All right, any further discussion? No. Okay, policy 217, graduation.
So 217 is recommended for legal liability purposes regarding adoption and posting of graduation requirements in compliance with state law and regulations. So that would be the change with 217.
Policy 254, educational opportunity for military children.
Once again, it's just aligning our policies to give our military families the utmost flexibility.
And policy 819, suicide awareness, prevention, and response.
This policy was updated to reflect current terminology and resources. It also includes some of our safety and security procedures in regards to incorporating safety training and safe to say into the language of the policy.
That's what I didn't see in there was the safe to say, and I could be missing it.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, I was trying to open stuff and stuff wasn't even opening for me, and maybe it was my Wi-Fi.
What I like about the conversation that we just had, and you've heard me talk about three things: student voice, transparency, and engagement. The transparency by giving this board and the community an opportunity to go through these policies and not turn around and vote on them, that we can have conversation and really dive into the language and then come back next month and have an ongoing conversation is, I believe, moving in the right direction of being transparent. So I appreciate this board's willingness to modify that policy so that we have multiple readings and we can go through, because if we miss a piece of language or miss something, these policies are our local law and we follow them. And we need to make sure that we have all eyes on them. And I would encourage the board that as you're going through these, you can still add comments so that as an administrative team, you may have a different perspective, or you may have seen something after we read this document 25 times that you picked up on something that we missed. And collectively, I believe that this is a better approach to approving policies moving forward.
I just wanted to add, safe to say is addressed on page 7.
I'm trying to get the computer to stay to page 7. I'm actually now starting to think I just need a new computer.
And then Dr. Richardson, there is in the board policies 209.1 addresses first aid standard orders, and it's in there where it talks about acetaminophen, and we might need to update that one, so I would add that to.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
There's a list of new policies that will be coming.
Yeah, so that might be that, it's in 209.1, but I think we need to update that. Anyway, but that's where it talks about that they can, like first aid wise, you're in discomfort, offer acetaminophen.
Okay. Good.
No, just the first reading, right?
Yeah.
So then that won't be on the agenda for the voting meeting, and then it'll be on the discussion in April.
Discussion next month.
Yep, that's perfect. So nothing for student services. Upcoming public meeting, board action meeting, Tuesday, March 26, 2024, 7 o'clock in the library. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Second. Third, fourth, all right, we are adjourned. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, adjourned.
I will say this, I've been creating documents, but I haven't been opening any attachments on my computer. And my battery is fully charged when I walk in here. Dead. I have 2% left on it. So I think that's my problem.
When did you get that computer?
Oh, it's old, but I'm like, it's $1,000, so like it should last a little longer in my mind. But then I went back and looked, and I'm like, what can I get to trade this in? I'm like, $150. I'm like, yep, I'm thinking it's 2 years old. I know. And I tried to update something on my phone to match it to my computer, and it wouldn't last week. And now it's not opening. Like, I can't get to all the attachments and all the pages. It's time to make a trip to Apple. You know, my concern is all my passwords are saved.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all in my cloud, so I'm gonna be like walking in like this.
Right.
Talk to me. How do I know this thing? We'll go with a new thing.
Right,
Okay.
I don't like that. That's scary to me.
because I can see me having a panic attack.
But your account should still be your account.
Yeah, it should all
access
transfer,
over-
but I'm like, I
But
have
still,
like,
I'd be paranoid.
I'm like the conspiracy theorist, so I'm
Yeah,
not like,
me
it's
too.
never gonna work, so I'm not gonna ever change it. And then-
Same here.
But I literally couldn't open some attachments, like I can't even get all those things. I can
know.
see 9 pages.
And I wasn't being a smartass.
No.
I just wanted to bring it up that it is on page 6.
Oh, I can see, but I can't see the pages, all of them, and I'm like, holy crap, but this just started happening, like, so I went to, and I had my computer open the other day when I was in my email, and I could see the executive summary, and I'm like, and my phone rang, so I opened up the executive summary thing, and I'm like, I'll just do it from my phone, and then it started like doing something haywire on my computer, and I'm like, oh, dear God, okay.
I know, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you hear somebody screaming from Shady Side, you'd be like, oh, probably didn't work out.
Oh, hey, your husband went to my son's class.
Oh, yeah, how would you get a little timer and.
Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. He was so excited about it.
Oh, good.
Double check, Mr. Manzer, can you answer that question for me? Yeah, ask him, but I think, yeah, I want to make sure he'll say it better than I will.
Hey, thank you. You too. So much. It's okay.
Nope.
I haven't heard yet, but I'm gonna send her a follow text to her, not private.
I'll send her an email tomorrow.
Ask for it to be reviewed again.
I know. Sometimes in the heat of it, you know,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
there's too much going on.
I always
So
kinda
you're
like
like,
lay out the options.
yeah, but you work with her every day, you know, it's,
Yeah, it's just like, that makes her tired of me though.
it's all right.
It's not happening at all next year. That's been the current state for a number of years, right? No, it is part of that workshop for the long-term plan. That's what I think everybody was saying, it was not like the community would say that, they didn't say there was a recommendation at all. They're just saying, what we're saying is, nobody's saying we don't want to. What we're saying is what's the decision to make for the district, kindergarten, but not for this budget season, this tax season. Does that make sense? Wow. You don't have
No. Steve, John. Okay, yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. He might. Yeah, he might.
I might check in, so that's
I mean,
next Thursday.
Yeah. No, that might be good.
All right.